Instagram. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. So good morning to everyone on the west side of the world and the east side of the world and north, south, east, west. Welcome to Sunday session. I don't know where my speaker is. It vanished. That is one big speaker to vanish. That or I just need a vacation soon. I just want to let you all know, you all in amongst other students who I'm actively counseling online, what a warrior you all are. As I, especially at night, I get a little bored, so I get on TED Talk and I go through some of these talks like how to deal with shame and guilt. And I realize that all of the students under my supervision counseling are very brave and they have resolved a lot of human obstacles in order to be intimate with me. Intimate means to confront in the presence of another. And these PhDs were talking about guilt and shame. We all know guilt and shame. I just wanted to hear how they describe the problem and how the solutions to the problem. And it dawned on me that over the past couple of years, not a lot of people stay sitting still to confront, to analyze, to dive deep into their mind, to do the spirituality work necessary to liberate themselves, is because I guess there's a lot of unresolved issues that they just want to either brush it underneath the rug or not deal with it, not the right time to deal with it. And blessed are those who come and face reality head on, face the good, the bad, the ugly head on, right? To uproot it once and for all, literally reach down, grab it by the roots, the base, just yank it. In our case, we do it slowly. We don't necessarily yank it up, but I've attended other healing modalities recently, and I realized that those types of healing modalities was aimed to treat the symptoms, not the cause. But there were in multitudes of people that showed up because it was more comfortable. It was more convenient, more comfortable and more convenient versus the work that we're doing here, which is sometimes not comfortable, right? And sometimes it's not convenient. Look at all the things that we're doing. Embracing suffering head on. So, yeah, and some of my students too, younger 20-year-old students too, that's embracing CBT just head on. Had one student that on his break went out to the car and was in the section with depression and sadness. And he's like, what's the difference again? And I said, sadness is more like a temporary thing. And depression is recycling over and over of the past. So the mind perceives that it's a little bit more permanent thing. Just drags on and on. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? How did it happen? But the fact that the student ran into the car and FaceTimed me on his break in clarifying certain chapters, it just shows the human effort. It's I think it's reached to the point where in my career that I'm just surprised now when people actually do the work. You know what I mean? Mm. The journaling and all of that. There were a few that said they wanted to be here, but they're not here. And I realize that they are, oh, we're going to get dings throughout the talk because my student is out there working and I told him I was going to. I started my teaching, so let's reserve text messages for priorities at this moment forward. Forward, not forward. Mute that. Let me mute. Okay, that's already muted. Okay. Huh? Oh, go ahead. Have at it. Have at it. It's 81 degrees today, high. 60 low last night. So you guys make yourself feel comfy. So I'm curious, in measuring these students when I'm not here and I'm engaging other projects elsewhere around the world, how you all will deal with life effectively using all the methods and tools. But I feel for those who came and did not retain, came and did not submit, came and did not stay, just could not sit. Yeah, we kind of scratch our head on that one because it's going to be a little bit bumpy for them. As you all can see, the week being stressful, but only got to hear Julia's side. You like to add how stressful it was?
My grandma was in a car accident. She rolled her vehicle a couple times, and she got broken ribs, and her back is broken. I was dealing with that. She's in Virginia, so it's not like I could do much about it other than figure out the info and then call her. That was tough.
SUV?
Sedan.
Oh, sedan rolling over? That's serious.
Yeah.
So it was not her fault.
She said she got sleepy. My grandma was retired CIA, so she's the most alert person I've ever met in my life.
How old is she now?
She's almost 80. She's not already 80.
It was really icy up there too.
Yeah.
Because of the snow.
So she said that she got sleepy. That's what she told me. My cousin, she told him that it was icy and she got sleepy or something. And it was like the middle of the day, so it's strange how I don't know, the mind can slip with age. But it's interesting because she is one of those people that has always been just on it.
Right.
On point every time, no matter what. But she's getting older now. So she went to the hospital. She can move her feet and her toes and her fingers and everything. So she broke her back, but she's not paralyzed, which is great. Her ribs are broken. She's all bruised up and banged up.
Oof. Yeah, that's one hell of a karma.
Yeah.
Did she torture anyone while she was CIA?
She never told me.
CIA level torture? Serious. My dad was an intelligence officer, so in the Army, so you can only imagine the secrets he hold. Keyword, intelligence.
Right.
I'll try to press him for information. The war is long gone, and half his people that he knows, 90% of people he knows, already dead. He still wouldn't tell me certain information. I'm like, Dad, they're already dead. You're next on the list. So why are you still withholding information from me? The Buddha. Wow. Well, I hope she makes a full recovery. Seasoned people are a work of art sometimes, especially when you get to that age. And as we see here in Florida, right? Now they're having legislation whether or not to make it illegal to drive in the far left lane. That's only for passing, because everyone's misusing the left lane. And of course, 90% of the time we get to the left lane and it's somebody who is 90 or 60 or 70. I don't know what the case may be. But I mean, if you collect 10 people and with their report of traffic, they would tell you most of the time it's someone who's really young or really old. But what strikes me is that the ones that are really old, after you've been over, after people pass you for so long, don't you think it's not them and it's you? And whether or not they will willfully surrender their driver license because they're cognitively slow, and it puts everyone else at risk, including them. Because if they're like in the middle of an intersection and a car is coming at you, trying to T-bone you, they don't have that right now acceleration, perception, and reaction to get out of the way. So they put themselves at risk, put other people at risk. There are times when I'm driving and I just pass by and they literally look like they're watching like YouTube, like in their mind, not literally watching YouTube on the phone or anything, but they just look not alert. You know what I mean? Yeah. I had a police major said that he was still very frustrated with traffic. And I'm like, dude, you're a major now. You just let it go. It's pointless. If I ever was to give a teaching on that, it would be the attachment, right? It's attachment to the self, the attachment to independence. The attachment is I don't want to use the transit system where it's safer. And if I got lost, I could ask the guy who's driving the transit bus, why am I here? Right. Rather than take it upon oneself and drive. Mind you, in the monastic, our most venerable, we won't say who, which is a bunch of them, took the abbot's SUV and just drove. I had no idea where he was driving and winded up in Tampa International Airport. So the monastic world don't exempt from, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know by the time I get there and I'm like, what happened again? It's just so entertaining at the monastery. So what? Most venerable did what? And he was doing like 90 miles an hour at 90 years old. I am at lost at words sometimes. Some of the stories I hear, you can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you, you can't.
That happened to me. I was driving to work. I look around and going past my exit on 19. I take Almerton, exit off of Almerton. And I look up and see the light right down here. I'm like, what the hell am I? Totally blanked out.
Twice in my life, I got really sleepy and I pulled over and I just went to sleep. I did. I did it once on the interstate while I was selling in Miami or with my cousin. And he said, go back to St. Pete, grab some more inventory. I said, sure. I thought I could do it, but I just couldn't. I was like, oh, okay, this is not good. So I slept on the side of the road. Yeah, the middle way. But tell me your findings in jhanas. Did you guys dig in and?
I did a little bit. So, some sources said there was 8, and then some said 9.
Hmm.
So the first jhana is delightful sensation, and so the concentration begins with one pointedness concentration, and will become stronger as there are no distractions. And to tell if you are kind of like in this state of consciousness, if you have pain, the pain will disappear. The second jhana is joy, and you go to this jhana by not being attached to the first jhana. You shift your attention from physical sensations to the emotional sensations. The third jhana is contentment, and that's letting go of the joy of the second jhana, which will change the emotional pleasure from joy to contentment. So you also become more emotionless during this jhana as well.
Mm.
The fourth jhana is utter peacefulness, and when in the third jhana that you're in, like when you're in it long enough, you will let go of the contentment. There will be no duality in the mind or body. So the fifth through the last jhana are the absorptions without form. So they differ from the first 4. And the fifth jhana is infinity of space. And this is when you will shift your concentration to your body's boundaries, basically, as if you are looking at yourself outside of your body. The sixth jhana is infinity of consciousness. The seventh is no-thingness. And the 8 is neither perception nor non-perception. And I wrote down the 9th one because some of them had it, and that was cessation.
Mm. Heath?
Yeah, pretty much the same stuff.
Mm.
Some teachers place the first 4 jhanas under the heading of jhanas, the remaining 4, the formless absorptions, or it says the other 4 to 5, including the cessation.
Mm.
Always followed by the remaining formless grounds that it was referred to as. So infinity of space, infinity of consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception.
Well,
The first factor is one-pointed concentration. By maintaining one-pointed concentration, you will not get distracted by sense, pleasure, or desire. And then how to kind of just focusing,
Mm.
kind of get into it more so.
yeah, so you see, so it's about noticing and then letting it go.
Yeah.
You notice that 1, 2, 3, noticing the delightful sensation, which is the natural pleasure of the breath, right? The joy you get, the little high you get, and you're like at peace, content. And then utter peacefulness, and you're like, oh. And it's no wonder that the Buddha says not to attach onto peace
Right.
in itself. Just like you get this, yeah, it's like this, and then back to baseline.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, good. You guys dug in it. You guys have any questions about it?
I did have a question, but
Infinite space, consciousness, kind of like literally just imagine space.
so I don't know what this was about, but I had an experience a little while back when I was meditating. It's happened multiple times, and I just getting to this point where I'm like, just like falling.
Mm.
The fear of hitting the bottom. Like literally, if it's sensation of falling, totally gone. And I don't know. And in those moments, it's like time goes by, this much time feels like it's this much. A long time feels like a short amount of time. And it's just awesome and bizarre. And I'm like, I want to do that again.
But the falling, you knew you were falling?
Yeah.
Mm.
I felt like the sensation of falling without the fear of hitting the bottom, if that makes any sense. Like there's nothing to be afraid of if you're free falling and you're not gonna hit the ground.
Skydiving for free.
Yeah.
Infinite space. Infinite consciousness.
So it was something that came to me, that experience that I had when I was thinking about that. I don't know about anything else, but I feel like the brief moments I've started to kind of scratch the surface of this without realizing it through practicing meditation, deep meditation.
Mm-hmm. Have you all practiced insight meditation at home? And what was the object of meditation that you guys used?
And for me this week it was my grandma being injured. I actually left work 2 days because it was causing me distress. Couldn't focus on work. So went home, spent time trying to figure that out, and then surely it helped me with the realization that it's weird because I already had the understanding. There's nothing I can do short of getting on a plane and flying to go see her and checking on her, and I still don't have medical background. It's not like I can be like, okay, well, this is what's going on, this is what you need to do to get it fixed, or have like superpowers where I can just heal you up right away. There's nothing I can do, and I understood that. So I was trying to figure out why I was still distressed over the whole thing. And it's because I had a fear of losing her. I've lost a lot of family members. Died. So that was something. So I had to acknowledge that. Working on letting it go. Easier said than done when it comes to the death of family members.
So what was my teaching on karma then that you could recall in your mind on matters such as this?
I mean, it's just as far as karma goes.
The workings of karma onto our loved ones, the things that happens to them, the things that has happened to them, is happening to them, and will happen to them.
That's their karma. It's not mine.
But do you remember my teachings on it? Do you remember the specifics on it? Matter of fact, today we just might talk about that a little bit, or bring it back as a refresher. I'm not sure if I share with you all. There was a lady recently that lost her husband. She's 55 or 60, 55 or 60, between that range. Lost her husband to suicide. He had Parkinson's, the trembling, the shaking. He was in a lot of pain. So he took his life in the kitchen, hung himself in the kitchen. How? I don't know how. I'm just like, there must be one high kitchen, or I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to picture it in my head. I didn't ask. But she said she said he hung himself in the kitchen, followed by a biological sister who has schizophrenia from a root canal. She says the root canal or something that has to do with whether it was an oral operation that triggered a nerve or something that caused schizophrenia. I've never heard that before. So I was scratching my head on that. And now she's living with her other sister who is off the chain, literally off the chain. So what that constitutes capital life felony karma for her, clearly. When I asked her, do you practice Buddhism? She said, no. I said, what do you practice? And then she told me. I said, oh. And I'm like, well, you've heard of Buddhism, right? And she's like, yeah, I listen to them all the time. I said, oh. And eventually I traced down to her having a bachelor's degree in public accountant, CPA in Vietnam. So she's educated, so she knows. And she knows what to comfort her. Karma is something that I study extensively throughout the lifespan of people, just to see how it works, just to see what kind of damage it can inflict onto humans, just to see the magnitude of suffering and how to alleviate that suffering by and through giving more and taking less. If I ever was to die, my teaching of our karma will be one of the most profound teachings and one of the most adamant teachings. The depth of that teaching will forever live. Every teacher has his thing. So I think Buddha Dasa, it's got to be, or it was another senior monk that pressed adamantly. When I say, look at my face when I say adamantly, okay? He asserted that you can in fact achieve enlightenment in this lifetime, period. So of course they wrote that and they're like, okay, all right, we got it. We clearly see your standpoint. So my standpoint, one of my standpoint is not only enlightenment can be in fact achieved in this lifetime, instantly, actually, sustained and maintained, but also the workings of karma and how one must have dire respect for karma. See quickly what karma can do, will do. And like, my teachings on withstand the empirical observations that I have made, the notes that I have taken, and the case file that's still at my desk. I may alter their actual name, date of birth. So let's back up a little bit. Let's give some real life example from people who are still alive. We shall use my dad as an example. He was a 19-year-old lieutenant in the Army. He commanded, I think, 50 to 70 soldiers. There were key cardinal rules in the family, which is do not gamble, do not abuse drugs, and do not kill anyone, my great-grandmother said. On the paternal side. So everyone in the home lived by that. Everyone in the home lived by that except my other uncle, who I just saw like literally not like 30 minutes ago as I was looking for my speaker. Uncle Anthony. And everyone knows this, and I make this very visible. My dad shot up in the air. He never shot anyone. He never killed anyone. Uncle Anthony, just anger. Everywhere he went was his anger. He was a captain. My dad was a lieutenant. His anger did not do him a lot of justice. The road for him was very bumpy. Because of that anger, the root of that anger caused him to be shot 7 times in the stomach. It caused him to be bullied multiple times in the academy. I mean, life was just rough for him. I mean, severely, severely rough for him. And he ate a grenade going off with shrapnel flying into his face. I mean, like pieces still stuck on his face until this present day. Yet, after all of that, decades later, and mind you, he's the one that has the most Buddha statues in the home. But he also kind of do both Christianity and Buddhism. but failed to miss the point. Really failed to miss the point. The bullseye is here. He's been shooting all the way over there for a captain. That's the Buddha would. Uncle Quat, Quat, was also a captain. Lived a very peaceful life. Peaceful, nice, quiet life. Also, no anger. Mellow. My dad lived the best life out of all of them in regards to happiness, contentment, joy, equanimity, tranquility. And I have no doubt that the man is a saint, probably first or second, not the last two, due to other desire that still exists, may or may not exist. But in regards to sainthood, and in regards to the sustained awareness moment to moment, because of the nature of his work and what he eats at home, just everything, his whole entire life. You look at the man moment to moment. You can walk in right now and observe him moment to moment as a scientist, an undercover scientist. You just watch him, what he eats, how he stands when he play games. As a 73-year-old, how mindful he actually really is, and just scan for mindlessness or forgetfulness. Ain't there. Forgets his phone probably like once every 3 weeks. That's impressive for 73, comparable to a 35-year-old world-renowned monk that forgot his speaker that is this huge. How do you forget a speaker this huge? And mind you, my cameras are not up. I'm using the laptop's camera. So not mindful, 73-year-old mindful. Right? If my father dies, I don't know of a funeral home big enough to house everyone that's coming to see him. The nature of his work, the price that he charges, his ethics, his morals, is uttered throughout the United States. You know what I mean? So when someone suffers greatly, you have to stand firm with the teachings of karma. Whatever they did in their last life or in this lifetime has amounted to that depth and magnitude of suffering, including children. Children who are infants and children who are just toddlers age, who've been shot and killed. This year, we've seen a number of toddlers shot and killed. Murder-suicides and direct homicides. Like, boom, to a 5-year-old and boom, to a 4-year-old. Like, just boom. Gone. Innocent in this lifetime, yes. Innocent in last lifetime, no. Do I get joy out of saying this? No. But it is the truth. In this lifetime, I've never hurt anybody like that. Emotionally, yes. In love, yes. Never robbed anybody. Stole from people, yes. Killed anyone? No. But I know the extent of my suffering. I mean, that's why I'm here. And that's why I study karma. And then there's generational karma, generational karmic effects too. So, and there's books on it now. There's empirical books on it now, on generational trauma and generational karmic effects. For you all, just again, just reflect. Come to acceptance quick. People in your life, people you will see, and people in the forthcoming days, how they suffer, Watch carefully, study it, interview them, ask them, in your life, what did you do? Who did you hurt? Tell me right now, who did you hurt? How did you hurt them? Did you ask for forgiveness? And did you forgive yourself? Did you ever get tired of forgiving? Did you ever get tired of asking for forgiveness? Mind you, everything that I have been teaching, just look at the total opposite of that and use that as a basis for questioning people and investigating karma. Look for greed, look for anger, and look for ignorance of what we have been studying. That gives you all the information you need to conclude, holy cow. And the answers you will receive in your head, there'll be a lot of judgments, but judgments necessary to adjudicate this person. One of which is, what the hell have you been doing all your life? You know, the teachings of the Buddha has been around for this long. What the hell have you been actually doing at home, moment to moment? Did you not? And if you choose to confront, I mean, obviously don't confront when their left leg is hanging in the hospital bed. But one day, if you choose to be a teacher, be the good teacher, the effective teacher, and wake people up like I have, you ask them, do you think that you've been playing a little too long and a little too hard? And mind you, lately, I've been saying that a lot to some of these seasoned people, and they just giggled because I just hit it right on the spot, like dead on the spot. And I look at them and I said, do you think you've played a little too long? With emphasis in the heaviness of the too long and a little too hard. And I just penetrate their soul with just those two right there. And they giggle and they laugh. They know it's true. They know it's true. And then I ease off a little bit and I said, okay, well, you know, if the Buddha was sitting right here, he would say, how well is this all working out for you? These Myanmar girls near the monastery, every time when they talk about giving and generosity, they talk about how people in Myanmar, people in Thailand go to the monastery and grab all life possessions of 24 karat gold off their wrists and just donate it all to the monastery. And the monks can't touch it, so they call in the police, the precinct police, to come and hold it. And the precinct police like, well, what do you want us to do with this? And they're like, melt it, put it on top of the roof. And they melt it and they make the, the very tip of the roof. That's to signify give all and take less. Now, why do these Thai people do this? They saved up their whole entire life to buy material possessions just to give it all away. It's because they have dead respect for karma. That they saw karma directly. They just know. And they have wise fear. That's what I call it, wise fear. And my whole life doing all of this was in hope that I would have a good death, that I don't have broken bones and I don't suffer the way that I have and stuff like that. Now let's look at another living example of right speech. We all know holy men misuse words to get money out of people, yes? We all know holy men also do unholy things. Strip clubs, money, politics, whatever the case may be. Recently, the past month, I've had fillings done. Quite a few fillings in a 2-month period, 3 fillings in a wisdom teeth pulled when I was, the story of the wisdom teeth pulled when I was in college. And how painless all of it was. Because I'd been practicing right speech my whole life. Oh, I was a 9 out of 10. And if I had to lie, it was for the benefit of the others. I'm not here to toot anyone's horn or my own. But you have to look at this face carefully. In this face, if this face violates precepts, it wouldn't look like this, right? We've all heard horrendous stories about wisdom teeth being pulled, yes? Horrendous, mind you, the stories that your friends told you. And in college, on my as just like junior year, Dr. Mang was like, I'm like, what's scratching over here? He's like, that's your wisdom teeth pull. It's growing outwards. Do you want it out? And I said, yes. And he pulled this drawer right here, like that, and just took all the equipment out. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, we're going to do this round. You said yes, right? I was like, yeah, do it. He's like, okay, all right. Okay, be back in 5 minutes. And then he took this other thing out, and it was the hugest pliers I have ever seen my entire life. And at that moment, I said, "Oh my, I just want to die. I hope I die in this moment. Just die." He says, "You're gonna feel a little pressure, okay?" And boop, done. Done. That's it. Done. I felt so good. I went back to college after getting it pulled. Dr. Donna Trent was my professor at that time, and the dean of the school, Margaret Scaffidotier, was there. And after they learned that, they're like, you need to go home right now. I went home. My mother called 911. I lay down because I was really dying because I was bleeding. But, I was just a little tired, a little fever. And my mom thought I was going to die. Paramedics came and I said, go back to your ambulance. I'm fine. But no pain. Past 2 months, fillings. We all know horrendous stories with fillings, right? And the needle coming in again. I was under the care of Dr. Long at Mang Dentistry. No pain. Feel no pain at all. Before and after, no pain. Makes me wonder, those who have reported the horrendous stories, whether or not they had been practicing right speech. In my own car accidents, again, low back pain due to herniations of that. So I don't know who I hurt in the past life. But I paid for it dearly in this life for 10 years. So therefore, the monk's been repeating this over and over again about karma. And as down the line, I was just like, okay, all right. I will submit to that teaching, and I will give more and take less as much as I possibly can. The point of all of this for all of you is that start investigating it. You're young now. I was just that mindful, watchful kid in life to watch people suffer, how they suffer, and what philosophy they practice as they're suffering. And it wasn't Buddhism. And it wasn't giving more, taking less. And I paid attention to those who gave more and took less. The one that tipped me as an interpreter. The one that brought fruits to the office. Fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Some of these people. Now, a lot of monks misuse this teaching so that they get supporters to donate even more in a temple that's already well off. How do they misdo it? I don't know, and I don't really care. That's their karma too. The people give their karma, right? What the monks do with it, God knows, that's their karma. They will pay for that dearly. So just the awareness of holy men misusing certain teachings unethically, immorally, their issues. Our issues as humans is to constantly give. And again, I invite both of you all as part of your training with me, is that when I'm not here, you go out and you volunteer for hospice or now empath, change the name to empath, and you interview old people. You sit with them, you ask them, tell them, hi, my name is Heath. And I just want to hear your story. I just wanted to see the lifespan of a human from birth to old age. I'm studying human development, and I'm wondering if you would share your story with me. And so get one that is all there, and they would tell you from birth and then trace it. And as you have time, your additional homework is to study human development theories, which is birth all the way to death, which is what my degree was in, so that you get the comprehensive picture of a life of a human as it directly relates to your life from birth until death. And I just want you all to just hear their story out. Every human is very interesting. Who has lived most ethical? Who has lived most moral? Who took more? Who gave more? And you see the end result because you're sitting with the end result. But you're just tracing, how did they get this result if they have done all of this right, or if they have done all of this wrong? Aha. See, that is the hypothesis. It always has to be the hypothesis. You must care about karma and the teachings of karma and the mechanics of karma, and to investigate it, because you wouldn't want to be at the moment of death and still wonder why. You need to get all the answers and be at peace. You should not lay there in bed in pain and agony and still wonder why. Because we played a little too long and a little too hard throughout our life. And towards the end, we still don't know the why, right? I would know the why if I suffered a heart attack right now. And to let go quickly, just to know the why. I live every day knowing that it could strike any moment. Karma can yank anyone any moment. This morning, millions did not wake up. This morning, millions blind, cannot see. Now has to use the Braille system, start learning how to read by feel. This morning, a lot of people lost smell, lost faculties, senses. Unless you can tell me how your grandmother lived her life. No one knows. But we know that she's in a very high agency that have a lot of power. License to kill, license to conceal material facts, work of national importance, secrets of national importance. Just a phone call and someone can be taken out. Right? Right?
Yeah.
A lot of powers. Say, what? We have a leak? All right, take him out. One order, one word, one sentence. Lives will be changed. CIA, FBI, ATF. I know these things. So again, we took 2 days off because you didn't understand the workings of karma and did not trace back far enough about my teachings. I'm just repeating what I said over and over again. And I just assume that students, when on their time off, they would trace back now to listening, but I have to remind people over and over again. Oh, and let's remind over and over again. Venerable Khai Tan, Khaitanh. For New Year, he gave teachings on Đức, DUC, cái phước và cái đức, which is merits, but the heavy emphasis on Đức. So what does that mean? So Vietnamese culture say, well, live a life so that you leave some merits for your children. What does that mean? What the hell is merits anyways? Merits are like karmic currencies. So we use the concept of karmic currencies. Whatever good you've done goes into your karmic bank. Whatever debt that you have to repay, that's a karmic bank. So as you do good, you accumulate merits. You know, every class I do the Anumodana chanting, right? Yep. The Sapitiyo Viwanjanta Saporogo, and it has to do with the sharing of merits and the accumulation of merits, and you just kind of leave it there. Now you say that to Americans, and they're like, they hear the word currency and they hear the word merits, and they're like, oh, religion and money. Oh, there it goes again. No, Karen, sit your ass down, Karen. Stop. Not all holy men are shady and sketchy. Okay, Karen? I also have a white mother that's named Karen. It's funny. And my life. But even Venerable Tan reminded me. But that word duk, D-U-C, it's such a profound word that I've heard my entire life. Để lại cái đức. Leave the merits behind. Leaving the merits behind. Để lại cái đức. That sentence alone in Vietnam, in the whole country, changes everything, every transaction. It changes every human transaction in the moment. As soon as you think someone is going to do you wrong, you remind them. You said, listen, leave some merits behind for your children, will you? Leave some merits behind for humanity in the next generation, will you? Are you doing the right thing? Or are you doing what you really want to do? Especially in Vietnam, it's still a communist country. Tremendous abuse of power, tremendous daily basis. I will be subject to that. I already know, because all the horrendous reports that I have received. But these will be my words as I'm there in those government offices or wherever I am. And I'll be like, listen, do what you do. Làm gì làm. Nhớ để lại cái đức cho con cái. Just make sure you leave some merits for your kids. I will only utter one or two sentences at them, for them, and to them. And I'll be in the mercy of what they decide, whether they will stamp my passport or whether they will do whatever they need to do or whatever the case may be. I was riding with Venerable Tong. We're all supposed to have helmets, but he decided to just wear his monk hat like this long up here. Literally screams monk. As we're driving through the city, and there were traffic police that glanced over at us. But they saw the monk and they realized they could ticket him because he did not have an actual helmet. And he just, and they let it go. And Venerable Tong was like, you know why they let me go? I was like, no. I was like 20 years old. He's like, well, because if they die, they're going to see me again. I was like, God, I can't with you. I take my training with him at Nha Trang Beach. And the guy who rents the chairs at the beach lets us use it. And he actually comes and pay respect to the Mahayana monk. But again, because the internalization of the word merit. Yeah, do they need money? Yeah. Can they charge money? Yes. They won't do it because of that merit. Because they know that they can use all the merits in their life to alleviate suffering and pain when that time comes. And I'm telling you, with old age, death, disease, and decay, wait until it comes. You think that knee hurts? Because I had a meniscus issue and I was like, damn. Right? When I tore my meniscus and I had to use my walker and I had to use physical therapy, I was just like, I was so mad. I was just like, I'm 30 something years old. Like, why is this happening? What did I do? And then as I'm doing the physical exercise, I just comforted myself. And I'm like, you know, you're not going to suffer long. Just like every other suffering you've had in your life, you've never suffered long. There was never anything that was permanent in your injuries. You're going to do just fine because of all the merits you accumulated, Jidao. All the lives that you've changed. You know this. So I comforted myself, pretty much. So pretty much you need to comfort yourself based on your own good deeds
Mm.
and the merits you have accumulated. Wait till it comes. I'm telling you, wait till it comes. It's coming. So when karma comes, it's just like this punch right here. This very calculated punch. We don't know where the punch is going to be. But here's your bag of merits. Punching bag, right? Will absorb, deflect. If the bag is big enough, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Mm.
But wait for it. It's coming. It's like revelations in the Bible. It's coming. In the most very serious but real sense. So the teachings of karma, you must never, ever forget, and to always pass this along. Always write it down, write a book about it. I hope that all of my students conduct this research across the lifespans of human, just to see it, just to prove me wrong, just to prove the venerable wrong, the ability to prove me wrong, and the bragging rights that comes after that. I was able to prove the monk with millions of followers dead wrong. And here are my findings. Right? You're not supposed to take any of this as real, true, and factual. You're supposed to test it out, just like the Kalama Sutta said. I met with one of my teachers who has already disrobed, and the monastery who petitioned for him and all this other good stuff. And I find him when on New Year's Day, I saw him at the monastery, and I was like, oh, say hi. He ran up to me. My former teacher, one of my former teachers, ran up to me, and I was like, that was very strange. Because now I clearly now outrank him because he's already a layman, right? So he doesn't not hold that status, even though I still consider him a venerable and still call him venerable. And I sat and I looked at him, and I'm just wondering why he's here at the monastery, because I thought he went to lay life and it's now all about the lay life. And he says, I volunteered today here at the monastery. I helped put up the lights and everything here that the monastery needed. I just wanted to give back. This particular teacher was on his like 18th, 19th Vasa, 18th, 19th year as a monk. So he was in the middle of most venerable. So you have, so the very last two is three Đại Đức, and then you have Thượng Tọa, and then you have Hòa Thượng. So DD, Thượng Tọa, you have TT, and then you have HT. HT is like the most highest venerable. That's it. You stop there. He was treading the middle one. So he was treading intermediate most venerable ranking, and still came back and volunteered. He didn't have to do jack, just because he's put in 18 years of monastic life. The amount of merits that he has accumulated in his life, and his mother's also a Buddhist nun. So that supersedes. If we were to fill up this room with golf balls, he would have 5 of these rooms golf balls of merits, whereas my golf balls would be like knee level high in this room. You get what I'm saying? And yet he still continues to give, when he could have just used all his time to could just do lay life stuff. Go strip club, go, damn it, go. It's New Year, why are you here? Strip club, go to the strip club. Go have fun, do whatever you want to do. Why are you here? High respect. That's why he is still worthy of veneration. Still worthy of veneration. So the next, so you have a good heart. I mean, it affected you because you have a good heart. And so is everybody else. And I have a big family too. But the fact that I've internalized it, sat very long with it, and meditated on it, and observed it, and studied it, and did all things that I'm teaching you to do here, I'm just now watching everybody drop. And they have. Like Uncle Cody died of, stomach cancer. And just watching people drop. And now I understand why they're dropping. And it's all about responsibility. As I'm a monk, I'm sharing my marriage with them as they depart. That's all I can do. It's a sentence you have to write out. That's it. I can't cry about it because it doesn't change anything.
Right.
What I'm doing here changes some things in the hell realm for them. Somebody donated $9 over the past week, and they were like, in honor of the hell realm. And I was like, what a different woman you actually are. She knows what she's doing, and so does all Vietnamese and Chinese people do this. They buy fake money out in the market and they burn it and hope that the hell realm enjoys it, because that's where the relatives are. They know that due to the attachment that they had or the ill will that they had. So you go in the Asian markets, you go in a section, you're like, excuse me, you have a section for dead people? And they're like, yep, back there. And you see fake $100 bill, fake clothing, mind you, so they can burn. But I don't think it actually goes anywhere. That's just to comfort the living. The dead's not going to get it. The dead's going to get the actual merits that they accumulate. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. They know. Chinese been around for thousands and thousands of years in civilization, so they notice everything. And y'all cannot say, nobody can say Chinese is dumb. They're not. They replicate everything. They got AI already. The technology, they're not dumb people. So they've been observing death and dying perspective, the afterlife, the hell realm. They know these things. That's why they do it. That's why the rituals, that's why they do it. Because they're like, oh shoot, shit's real. Shit's hitting the fan down there right now. We need to, okay, they know. You know what I mean? Grave respect for karma. It's like this invisible thing that's always working with us or against us. Or it just kind of follows you with a knife right in your back. And it just waits for the right moment. So death meditation is important. So, in my room, I have a spear. It's a very mean looking spear. I bought it for teaching. I buy a lot of weird stuff for teachings. And I was going to have one of my students hold the spear to my neck. I don't have anything sharp here or deadly, but I've been known to be very impactful with my teaching. But I was going to have this student hold. I mean, this spear is serious. It's a survival spear. And I was just going to have the student just follow me with the spear at my neck. Matter of fact, I was going to have 2, 3 of them. Mahayanan temples are really cool. They got this Buddha with this wheel, and this wheel's got literally spears coming out of it. And one day I'll have a group of literally 10 students hold weapons towards my neck. And as I move to the left, they follow. I move to the right, these spears follow with me. Knives follow. I move to the right, these spears follow with me. Knives, steak knives, forks, spears to your neck, to my neck, literally inches away from my neck. That's death. That's karma. That's karma right there. It just waits for the right moment to strike. Yeah, and some things I will never be able to grasp and fully, why did bad things happen to good people? And some people give so much that yet they still die. Horrendously, actually. You study, all the people that have died on the news channel. Everyone says good things about them. He gave more. He would give his shirt off his back for someone. And you just hear all these things repeated over and over again. I have no doubt in this lifetime they were beautiful human beings. But what the hell did they do in that last lifetime? And that the amount of merits that they accumulate in this lifetime could not supersede that karmic debt. And karma yanked them. Stop giving them opportunities. There's a lot of unanswered questions I have with karma, even this deep into my investigation. That leads to more wise fear. Not more, but it's just like, oh, okay, well, I know what I need to do and stop questioning it. And the problem is that a lot of people they get too analytical and too psychological, and they started questioning some of these millennial teachings, perennial teachings, and they miss the point, and they continue to live, and then they continue to suffer, and they have to deal with that suffering. So one day you will get to this point in life, your spiritual height of attainment, and you will be able to see the suffering in humans' eyes. When you sit in a full room, you're able to spot who has given more in their life and who has not, who has been fortifying the atta, right? The self, the sense of me, mine, I. You'll see it. When you sit at a wedding table, you'll see it. Your eyes will be, once all of these teachings absorb and you internalize it, you'll sit there and you're going to be one of the most wisest human, like a guru at the table. And no one knows you're a guru. No one knows. And you just glance and you just remember all of my teachings, and you glance each eyeballs, and you're reading their life story through their eyes. And you realize, this one's lived a good life. These two, rough. You just know. And then you just take a moment and you just have compassion for them. You just realize it's just ignorance prevailed. Greed prevailed. Any questions so far?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Your karma right now, striking. Yes, karma, do aim at the bladder too.
Actually, no, not.
I hope this brings understanding for you.
Yeah.
And it's not an attack
towards
grandma or anyone that is up, like, horrendous accidents and stuff like that.
No, that's what I was dwelling on for a while. This week, I guess I was when you had asked, I just said it very plainly. I was like, "It's their karma, it's not mine, but it is." And I make it my karma. I worry about it because I'm creating my own karma, thinking about things that are outside of my control, putting pressure on myself, worrying about things I can't do anything about. Takes my peace away. One of the things you say a lot: live a good life, have a good death.
Leave the rest underneath it. As a matter of fact, let me share this other story too about the accidents. Well, so I would say this. I would say, number one, I'm a cat with 9 lives. Clearly. I think I will write a book on my observations of karma, and I'll put all my pictures together, all the evidence together. You can't just make a claim without evidence. But when I was 18, I was 18, and we went and played airsoft in Lakeland. Coming back from Lakeland at 2 a.m. A drunk driver hit my Toyota Camry 4-door small sedan. 4 of us in the car. John was in there, Christina, Tyler was in there. There's 4 lives in there. I've never felt such an impact so strong that the car spun. It was like in the far right lane. He hit it so hard the car spun into a ditch. That's how hard he hit it, with all 4 of us inside the car. One could say he tried to kill us. Of course, probably unintentionally, but That is a force of impact. That was a fatal, potentially fatal force of impact. And we all emerged out of it. I mean, we all hopped out of the car like nothing happened until we looked at the trunk of the car, and it was just horrendous to see where the car used to be and where the car is. So all of our parents came. John Sterner's mom came where the car is. So all of our parents came. John Sterner's mom came. Tyler Baldwin's mom came. Christina was my girlfriend at the time. And this rookie cop, I think she just got out of the academy yesterday, did not take the guy into custody for drunk driving. So you can only imagine the anger that was there that night, just to watch this guy drunk. I should have died. I should have died then. I should have died another time up in Gandy Boulevard when I was T-boned by God knows what kind of vehicle that was, but it hit my Mazda 626. I also had 3 lives in the car. We didn't die. That should have been a fatal death, quick fatal death too. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but there was this black guy that I met, young one, 25 years old, in jail when I did jail visits. He was in a wheelchair, and he told me at 40 miles an hour, it broke his neck. He was hit from behind. And when the force of impact, it went like this and broke his neck. He was paralyzed from the neck down. He was in a wheelchair. And I heard that story and I looked at him. Then I reflected on all 12 of my car accidents. Half of it was my fault, half of it was not my fault. Clearly, I couldn't drive. Clearly, Asians can't drive. But I realized that could have been me. When I looked at him, I realized that could have been me. Now, Venerable Sarananpala says, may all the devas and celestial beings protect you. So some of you who are fortunate enough may have an angel above you that always watch out for you also, if you're lucky. I can't tell if there's one. Only you can tell if there's one. But we've heard that before, right? Especially with Americans, where they're like, well, I believe that, my daughter or someone who's passed away in the family, hovers over them and protects them. So, I was able to dodge more than 9 times death, because all of my car accidents were totaled. And all the records still there, and all the pictures still there. And the fact that I kept the records now constitutes the new book, which is Karma, my observations of karma. I mean, you can't escape that many. So clearly there was a different agenda for me to teach and inspire, to drag this long. So I hope that I've given you all enough evidence to rethink about karma, and to never lose sight, never dismiss this fact, this true fact. Well, so even if you did, it would still come back. Even if you decided to dismiss this teaching and go back into your old ways and your old days, and now you have knowledge of it, you would just realize, oh shoot, it came back, and you will know why it came back. If you lost your ways, it will come back. It's just more thorns. So the ways that you can accumulate merits is by meditating is one of them. By cultivating love and kindness is one of them. To say nice things to people, hold the door, yield a traffic lane. Being aware not to do harm to other people through body, speech, and mind. Spreading the teachings of the Buddha is one of them. Set it up exactly like how she had it on her shelf. Um, Furthermore, my life as an interpreter is up and downs. It's everything but stable. The nature of jobs, and it's like this. Right? In interpreters, there's no guarantee how many cases I get a week. So it comes and it goes. Sometimes it's slower, sometimes it's faster. But just the fact that I give so much in my life that my students are very concerned about, well, how do you make a living, Venerable? How do you pay for your co-pays and stuff like that? And I'm like, I said, especially Steven's been with me the longest. So I look at Steven and I said, you've been with me the longest. You've noticed how karma always gives back, right? When do I ever have to worry about money? Do you not see how it gives naturally? Do you see me having to try hard? How do you know I'm not trying hard? I don't even publish this class every Sunday. Right? Text two clicks. I just the longest I don't have to do it. It just comes the way that it does. So slowly and I live by that. Literally, I live by that. There is no guarantee where I will be or what I will do or how things are going to unfold for me. I literally leave it in an unshakable faith to the workings of karma in regards to my health, in regards to money that's needed for traveling or anything of that nature, versus the fear that everyone else has got. So I needed to work X amount of money and save up, and they just think wrong. They just think wrong. They don't give more and take less, so they have nothing to comfort them besides their bank account and a job that is unstable, insecure. You know what I'm saying? Job security. But when you actually practice these teachings thousands of years ago, it's very liberating. It's part of the inner liberation. It's part of the inner, actual, true inner freedom, liberation, and peace and joy, knowing that karma's got your back. If you practice the teachings, karma's got your back. Basically, that's what it amounts to. And we've had philosophers say, no one's ever been poor by giving. And I exemplify that. And I've been given enough to survive. And that's all I need. That's all I need. My dad, the same way. He's been given enough to survive. He's been given enough to enjoy traveling and seeing things around the world and content. And him and his books. And he doesn't drive a Mercedes. He doesn't drive a Bentley. And he charges $300 a case. Whereas other people charge $3,000, he's charging $300 an immigration case. And he's happy. And I said, you can charge more. He's like, I don't want to. He says in life, he literally exemplifies the middle way every day. Sometimes I'm mad at him. I'm like, you're 73. You can charge a little more, He won't do it. He won't do it. He says, everything he does is in moderation, eating, sleeping. Coming back to the Noble Eightfold Path, one accumulates merits. Each element of the Noble Eightfold Path constitutes merit. When you read about it, when you study it, when you take it in, when you try to practice it, even though it may not be right, even though it might be not accurate, but you're trying your hardest, you're accumulating merits. Not doing harm to oneself, one accumulates merits. Not doing harm to others, one accumulates merits. So you all know that all my programs will continue, whether or not I'm in robes or not. I'm not sure when I will disrobe. It's more likely end of the year. And just because I want to exemplify a lay life for people to also see. I think people were just made aware after I became a monk, but they haven't seen lay life, how I live my life. It's going to be very similar to my dad's kind of life, the middle way of how he lived. And I wanted to, it's part of my program that I've said, I think 2 years ago, that subsequently I will disrobe and come back as a part-time monk. But I wanted people to see me in human clothes. I wanted to see how I love to love and be loved, and to exemplify that, because that's the masses of the crowd. They want to see, okay, so he became a monk, he internalized the teachings. How does he live his life now? How should we live our life? Focus on health a lot, focus on well-being and men's health, women's health a lot, to fight dementia, to fight Alzheimer's, to fight all the things, to use the best available science to live well, seriously, to live well, stress-free. The science of aging, the preservation of telomeres. You know your shoe, you know the little shoelace? You know the little tip of the shoelace, the little plastic part that helps you weave?
It's called an aglet.
Yeah, aglet. There you go. Well, your cells, your cells have little aglets. We call those telomeres. And you have to protect it and prolong it by through living a stress-free life. Well, stress-free life is one of them, one of the factors.
I never thought I'd be able to do that. Use that word in a conversation freely.
Now you have. Every weekend you come here, I always pull something out of you. But yeah, life's too short to deal with disturbing emotions.
Yeah.
And all of the work that we've been doing here is to deal with the potential and likely chance of disturbing emotions that will come along the way of life. And the teachings that we need, the tools that we need along the way of life to deal with it effectively. So yes.
I was gonna say, I don't pay attention to karma all the time, but when I do, it's when I'm having difficulty, I notice, with compassion sometimes. And I think about karma and what they've done and what's going on, and it actually helps me grow compassion. Yeah.
There's two things. Number one, you hold them responsible for what they did, simply put. And the second thing is the adjustment of compassion needed. Because they did play a little too long and a little too hard. That's what led to it. Anyone who has not heeded the teachings of the Buddha has played a little too long, a little too hard. And they know that. All you have to do is just say it. You've been playing a little too long, huh? A little too hard, huh? And watch their eyes go into denial. Watch their eyes try to avoid. That's why people can't sit in front of me. You notice that? I got a patient in the hospital calling me. 1 second. Yeah. Dạ không sao. Dạ. Dạ, dạ, dạ. Dạ. Dạ, dạ, dạ. Không sao. Ok, dạ. Yeah. Where was I at?
Cultivate compassion.
Hmm.
Holding those accountable for
Accountability. Yeah, that's why some of them can't sit in here, and I realized that they know these teachings are too deep. These teachings hit home to them, and it's easier to just go back to the old ways and the old days rather than sitting here sustained like you all have, committing to something and finishing it. Not a lot of people can do that. They're so self-centered about me, my way, my beer, my Netflix, my show. Why the hell would I waste my Sunday sitting here listening to a monk that's 35 years old? Right? Hmm. But it is a struggle that I share with you mutually. Um, but again, you have to hold them responsible. Life's all about responsibility. As much compassion I have for people, I realize that you done did this to your damn self. And I really want to tell them that sometimes. Like, you done did this to yourself. All that you've done, you have done this to yourself. I'm pretty sure they don't want to hear that. I'm pretty sure it's not healing in the moment.
so everyone can always say, "You've done this yourself."
A lot of people don't like the responsibility.
What if they don't like it?
No, I'm saying they don't like it. So saying that it's like, no, I don't want to hear that.
Then don't.
Yeah.
Go back to your old ways. I don't care.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of blame. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never your
What you're doing is just observing.
Yeah.
You're stating the observations, and they don't want to hear it because they want to go back to partying. It's America. That's what they do. You know, that's what they do. You know, it's just
see it at work.
all of them actually, even Asians and everybody else. I mean, a rash of crimes that Asians have been committing recently too.
Yeah.
The 70-something-year-old that shot up California, and then another one followed 3 days later or 2 days later. You did it to your damn self. Yeah, I would be that monk. I wouldn't go there and be like, oh, I have compassion for you because you're in here. It's number one, do you see that you did this to yourself? And number two, now I have compassion for you, but slight compassion for you. I have full compassion when they want to change. My job is to just simply understand. You know what I mean? I want to state my observations and let them know that I understand and what I want to see forward, which is you to change. Compassion doesn't lead to change. You letting them know that you want to see change probably does more good than telling them you have compassion for them. I think the word saying you have compassion, it just magnifies their self-involvement.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's in my head I can throw out for now. I mean, because the moments that you watch them suffer are good critical moments of intervention. And if you use that opportunity to intervene using the right words at the right time, I think it does more good than to just go there and say, I feel bad for you because this is happening to you now.
Right. You can intervene and not do it in a rude way, if you will.
And you know what? Quite frankly, there have been students last year that did not heed the advice, did not heed my advice. So therefore they messed up and they got in trouble with the law. And I said, you done effed up. Straight up. And you will pay the consequences. And even though the law got involved or is about to get involved or is not going to get involved, you're still subject to the torment of your mind knowing what you did. I made it very clear. I stated my observations. And they know that too. They know it. They know it. They know they effed up. And I just make sure that they know that they effed up. And I make sure that you will live with the consequences in the forthcoming days. The Pope would say the same, except he doesn't say it out loud like I do. Other monks don't say it out loud and visible in front of the whole world like I do. But yeah, you done played a little too long, especially students in my program that really fall like that. Oh, you done disrespected everything. You done disrespected the whole triple gem. You disrespected me. You disrespected the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, the whole monastic order. Oh, I lay it down on them hard so they understand the magnitude of their mistake. Again, it's holding them responsible. And then no matter if the law prosecutes or not prosecute, you live with those choices now. Not me, not anybody else. It's part of teaching mindfulness. You know, it's part of being mindful. And when you're not, one mistake, you can, the guilt, the shame thereafter for a very long time. The resentment for a very long time. So should I be more compassionate? I don't know. I'm just me. Maybe later down the road, a grumpy arahant. That would be me. You know, it's tough being a leader. It's tough being a monk. It's tough being me. It's tough being compassionate and understanding and holding people responsible at the same concurring consecutive time. You know, and your feeling will dictate what you're about to say to them in those moments. And guess what? Just give it to them. Give it to them straight. It's what they need. Maybe their whole life, no one's given it to them straight. Their whole life, people's been sugarcoating it. So that's why they keep on playing a little too long, a little too hard. You know? So you're just going to have to deal with it in the moment the best that you can. But again, that's them. We focus on us and how we carry ourselves. So today I just, because I asked for your week and you told me about your week and you told me what you had to do and how you were not free from disturbing emotions, I decided to expand on it. I decided to take that opportunity to brush up on earlier teachings that you may have forgotten or may have not go back far enough to absorb. But these are all necessary as part of your Buddhism program. Well, I just wanted to share this too with all of you. You know, when I'm at my dad's office and I see cases come in, the responsibility side of me gets the best of me in regards to holding people responsible, a little too responsible, actually. And sometimes my dad reminds me, you all going to need since you all are a couple, you guys remind yourself about the merit thing. People would come in with cases that is half done or just hard-headed, stubborn people that wants us to clean up the mess that they have created in their immigration case. And I would tell my dad, I'm like, so I would see it unfold. I mean, I could see a nature of a case unfold. Any case, criminal case, immigration case, unfold the way that it is. I could see the true nature of reality of what happened quickly in a matter of minutes after glancing through it. And I would tell my dad and I would be like, listen, Dad, they didn't do this. They didn't change their address in time. They didn't do what they're supposed to do. And now we're supposed to fix their mess. We're supposed to now fix their mess for how much amount of money again? And I would just lay it on my dad to hold them responsible. My dad's like, don't forget to leave the merits for our kids. And that pretty much shuts me up. You know what I mean? It reminds me to just. Sometimes I do forget I'm a venerable. Oh, when I go to Tampa and visit my students over there, they're like, "Oh, venerable one." And when I walk in the door, they're like, "Oh, it's the venerable one." But in moments of work and occupation at my dad's office, sometimes I do forget. Sometimes I'm just like appalled of some of the decisions that people have made, and I want my dad to hold them responsible. But he's such a compassionate. He's a true Buddha, such a compassionate man that he's willing to overlook their mistakes, willing to fix their problems, and not charge extra. What that means is he didn't put these me, my, and I in there, whereas I did. He was willing to give more and take less. That it's okay, let it go. He's practicing everything that I'm teaching better than I could practice it as I'm teaching it. You get what I'm saying? Because he has age and wisdom. And that's the last full training is panya, is wisdom. So as you absorb these teachings in your younger days and you practice them until you get to where that man is, of which all of us are struggling to get, including me. You know, I'm just like, Dad, did you just look at that? And again, I think Venerable Tan hit it. And Venerable Tan, I think he's only 40. He's only a couple years older than I am. And that was such a profound teaching he did for New Year's. Because the economy was going down and people were sad and upset. And, you know, the New Year was not pretty in Vietnam this year because COVID took that toll. The wheel's been turning since COVID and the economy hasn't been revived fast enough to celebrate New Year. So this was, you know, so he chose the right teachings for that because he knew that if he didn't choose that teachings, there would be more killing, lying, cheating, and stealing. So he hit the teaching on giving, merits, and morality and ethics and precepts all in one word. DUC. Yes, he is one of the Buddhist cardinals in the Mahayana tradition. So I don't think I missed anything, huh? Anything I need to clarify with you all so far on what you have written?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
The jhanas again is to, delightful. These are all require you guys to observe carefully during meditation. Observe it without attachment and let go of it as it leads on to the next. You gradually, but I don't even analyze these things as I'm going along. I'm just enjoying the breath. I'm just like, oh, look, short breath, long. I just notice short, long, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and subtle, just the subtleness of the breath. This is too much to think about during breathing. Right? 9 things you have to remember during breathing. Like, what? No. Popcorn? Yes.
It seems like with that, it seems like when you kind of clear your mind and you just focus on your breath, from what I understand, these things just happen naturally. You don't have to think about it. There's nothing attached to it, and then it's going to just be a free-flowing experience. It's going to lead you from one step to the other.
Did you listen to any monks talk about jhanas meditation on YouTube?
No. Stuff up.
Let me see if I can find a quick one. Doug's Dharma.
Insight was one. Dhamma Wiki. There's a few more.
The question of jhana. First jhana in early Buddhism. First meditative absorption. Third meditative absorption.
Are the jhanas in Buddhism? This is a big question, and initially I had intended to do a single video on all 4 of the jhanas, because there are 4 of them. However, in producing the video and trying to write up the video and ideas, I realized that it would probably take much more than a time that I wanted, so I've decided to split it up into 4 separate videos, one on each of the jhanas. So in today's video, what I'm going to be dealing with is the first jhana. However, before getting to that, I do want to talk about jhanas in general. Jhanas in general are pleasant states of deep meditation. And they take an enormous amount, not really enormous, but a large amount of time and effort to achieve. In other words, they're not the sorts of things that you can achieve with, by doing only a few minutes of meditation a day. It takes a lot of meditation, a lot of time sitting regularly to be able to achieve them. As a result, they have been downplayed in a lot of later Buddhist schools, and indeed downplayed in much contemporary Buddhism as well. Some people may be familiar with Insight Buddhism. In Insight Buddhism, which is a version of Theravada Buddhism, jhanas were basically left aside. However, things have begun to change in the last decade or so, and jhanas have become more popular again. So now you will find people teaching them to lay audiences as well as to monastics. Well, what about the historical background of jhana? There's a lot that we don't really know, so I'm going to begin the story with Gautama, the Buddha-to-be, his decision to leave home, leave the palace, go out into the wilderness and search for enlightenment. And one of the parts of this search for enlightenment was that he undertook a number of very severe austerities, painful sorts of practices that seem to have been designed out of a feeling that there was something wrong with sense pleasure. In other words, sense pleasure was bad, and the way to rid ourselves of our desire for sense pleasure was to undergo a lot of severe austerities. He went through, it's said historically that he went through many, many years of this, or several years anyhow, and began to realize that it was kind of a dead end. But the breakthrough, at least as told in the early texts that Gautama had at this point, was when he recalled back to his youth, when he was sitting under a rose apple tree and attained a very pleasurable state of meditation, which was the first jhana. So he remembered it both as a blameless source of pleasure, and in that remembering began to realize that there was nothing wrong with pleasure itself. The problem lay somewhere else. And so, in other words, the Buddha could continue on his journey without having to have a terrible reaction against pleasurable states. In particular, that the state of jhana was pleasurable, but was also, the Buddha says, blameless, that there was no real problem with it. In fact, the Buddha says that jhana is more pleasurable than any sense pleasure that we can gain. So a part of the use of jhana in early Buddhist practice is to help wean us away from our desire for ordinary sense pleasures. In other words, when we begin to learn that there are pleasures of meditation that are greater than any that we can achieve through our senses, then perhaps we can begin to relax around our ordinary desire to always gain sense pleasures. And then later on, we'll have to deal with our desire perhaps for jhana, which is somewhat subtler, but that's at least a somewhat more advanced problem to have, and outside of the scope of this video at any rate. Now, the subject of exactly how to understand jhana is controversial. There are many different disagreements about what jhana really is. Generally speaking, it's understood that jhana is a form of what we might call meditative absorption. That is, it's a meditative, or these are a series of meditative states, 4 of them, that are progressively more and more absorbed into their mental object. So we leave the world behind to a large extent, shut the world out simply because the mind is so focused on or absorbed in or unified in its experience in these particular states that we'll get to. The mind is so focused on or absorbed in or unified in its experience in these particular states that we'll get to. Now, the precise level of that absorption and what that really entails, that's part of the controversy nowadays. I did a video a while back on this very subject, on how deep this absorption has to be and all the different, or several anyway, different opinions about it. I'll leave a link to that video down below in the notes in case you want to know more, because that's sort of outside the scope of what I'll be discussing today. So with that as the background then, what is the first jhana? To get an answer to that question, one of the places we can look is in a definition of the 8th step in the Eightfold Path, which is generally translated right concentration. Many of us will know the Eightfold Path, perhaps the most famous path of practice described in early Buddhism. The 8th of those stages, again, is right concentration. Right concentration, at least in certain suttas, is defined in terms of the achievement of these 4 jhanas. And so in these videos that I'll be doing on the jhanas, I'll be relying on this one particular sutta that defines right concentration in terms of these jhanas and then defines each of the jhanas in turn. So what does it have to say about the first jhana? Well, what it says is, it's when a mendicant or a monastic, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first absorption or first jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion while placing the mind and keeping it connected. Now, this is a complex definition here with a lot of technical terminology. I'll try to unpack some of it here. Again, a lot of these terms are controversial. There are different ways of interpreting them. But to begin with, it talks about being secluded from sensual pleasures and secluded from unskillful states. Now, being secluded from sense pleasures, well, part of that means that we're no longer, looking around. We don't have our eyes open. We're no longer sort of actively listening at things in the world, trying to hear nice music and so on. But it also means, in a deeper way, that we're secluded from what are called the hindrances, the 5 hindrances to meditation. Now, I'm not going to go into a deep analysis of the 5 hindrances here. I've done prior videos on those, and I'll leave a link to one of them down below in the notes if you're not familiar with the hindrances. But basically, the 5 hindrances are the hindrance of sense pleasures, of looking for sense pleasures, basically, of ill will, which is a form of anger or hatred, of being sleepy. Sleepiness is a hindrance. Restlessness and remorse is a hindrance. That's considered a single state there, restlessness and remorse. But basically, that's the sort of mind that's flitting from this thing to that. And finally, the 5th hindrance is doubt. Now, ordinarily, I think most of us will be familiar that in meditation, normal breathing meditation will be beset by one or another of these hindrances in turn. So perhaps we'll be thinking about a beautiful beach or a beautiful person or something like that. That's sense pleasure. That's the hindrance of sense pleasure, taking us away from the object of our meditation. Or we maybe get angry at somebody, think about, turn over some annoyance in our mind, ill will. We may be sleepy, that often happens. Or we may just have a monkey mind that sort of flits around from one thing and another and can't settle down. Or again, we may have doubts. So these are things that keep us from being able to achieve jhana, the first jhana in particular. What we have to do is seclude ourselves from these pleasures, overcome, I'm sorry, not the pleasures, but these hindrances, overcome the hindrances so that the mind becomes placid. Once the mind is placid and stable to an extent, then at least there's the opportunity for this first jhana to arise. The definition also says that we're secluded. This is, indeed, jhana is, meditation is a form of renunciation, of seclusion from the world, at least for a time. It's said that there are various what are called thorns to each of these jhanic states. That is, things that, when they occur, tend to make the jhanic state not arise. And so it's said that sound is a thorn to the first jhana. which basically means that if we're in an environment with a lot of sound, a lot of noise, we're not going to be able to achieve the first jhana because the sounds will always be directing our mind this way and that and keeping us from becoming focused enough, quiet enough in the mind to be able to have this jhana arise. But if we are able to do this, then it's said that a certain very happy state arises, what's termed, at least in this translation, to be rapture and bliss. Now, these are two Pali terms, piti and sukha. Piti is basically a form of very active, kind of bubbling, pleasurable state that we feel in the mind, perhaps when something very nice happens. It's a very sort of active mental state. We'll get into that in a moment. The other side of this is the bliss or happiness. The Pali word is sukha. Sukha is the opposite of dukkha. So dukkha is, many of us will be familiar with the First Noble Truth, dukkha, pain, suffering, unpleasantness. Well, its opposite is sukha, is happiness, bliss. So when this first jhana arises, out of this sort of calm mind, it sort of arises spontaneously. What arises is this mix of bubbling state of pleasure with a sort of a general, more placid, happy state as well, or blissful state.
Of course.
Now, the last part of the definition is a little complicated and open to interpretation. It talks about while placing the mind and keeping it connected. The Pali terms here are vitakka and vichara, savitakang, savicharang, that is with keeping the mind, placing the mind and keeping it connected. These are mental operations. Vitakka means to place the mind on an object. So, for example, we might think of doing breath meditation. There's a mental operation, which is when our mind is thinking about something else, there's a mental operation of realizing what it's doing and then bringing the mind back to the breath. That's vitakka. That's understood as vitakka. And vichara is the operation of keeping the mind connected. So, or keeping the mind on its object. So once the mind has been, let's say, placed on the breath, if we're talking about breathing meditation, then there's a mental operation of sort of stabilizing it, holding it there so that it doesn't move off. Now, these vitakka and vichara are hardly perfect. We don't have perfect control over them. The mind tends to wander anyway. But the point is that in this first jhana, both of these states are active. There is an active state of placing the mind on the meditative state of bliss and happiness and rapture. There is also the state of keeping it connected. Now, some scholars believe that these two words, vitakka and vichara, originally both meant sort of thinking. They were sort of basically synonyms, rough synonyms for thinking. They didn't have such highfalutin kinds of interpretations as placing the mind and keeping it connected. So some scholars would interpret vitakka and vichara as something more like thinking and pondering. Or, for example, Bhikkhu Bodhi in his translation of this passage has thought and examination. Again, two kinds of thinking. But the basic idea, if we take this latter interpretation of vitakka and vichara, basically means that in the first jhana, perhaps we can have very quiet kinds of thoughts going on in the background, or realizations, understandings, kind of mental activity bubbling around in the background while we're experiencing this rapturous and blissful state. This is, however, one of these things that's hotly disputed among practitioners of jhana. So it's up in the air what we consider jhana and what we want to say about it. The Pali terms, again, have various interpretations. Now, there's also a simile involved with each of these jhanic states that the Buddha talks about. And the similes, I think, are very, very important because they give us additional kinds of insight into what these jhanic states are like. So we read about the simile for the first jhana. It's like when a deft bathroom attendant or their apprentice pours bath powder into a bronze dish.
I think you guys get the point. Any questions on the jhanas? Pretty self-explanatory about the hindrances, keeping sustained, and the seclusion part, of which over the past years and years and years on end, that's what you all see with seclusion. It's me in seclusion. Rarely am I around people. And when I'm meditating online, as you see in seclusion, no one's around me. It's a very rare fact. Out of all the videos, it's like only 1/10 has people. Another 9 out of the 10 is within seclusion. And usually you see me at the beach or in the next to trees in the park or so on and so on. So now you all know how to practice the first jhana in seclusion, being aware of the hindrance and keeping the mind connected with the breath, sustained. So pretty easy. Just have to be disciplined enough to do it. And this is something, yes, we do brush underneath the rug in the Theravadan world. In the Theravadan world, which is 2 things, samadhi and vipassana, right? And so now they've been trying to bring back jhanas over the past 5 years online. And there's no wonder, we Theravadan monks don't really speak about it. And it's no wonder why I have to resort to videos, is because we don't talk about it a lot. I have to resort back to the basics of it in order so you all make sense of what's happening. But it just reincorporates everything that I've been saying previously about the hindrances and incorporating all of that into your continuous constant practice and to refine that continuous constant practice. So at this time, we have a couple more minutes. So let's take some deep silent meditation with no music. Maybe the speaker worked out. And in these moments, as I give my initial instructions, and then thereafter that, you will just enjoy silence, seclusion, and to track your breath. At this time, we are in our favorite meditative position with our back straight, shoulders relaxed, relaxing all of the muscles on our face, bringing awareness to a small smile on our face. Meditators are happy people. We take our first 3 deep breaths. At this time, we will continue to practice mindfulness of the breath, the in-breath, the long breath, the short breath, noticing and observing carefully the movements of our breath, the suffering of the breath, and the natural pleasure of our breath. We will do this for 10 minutes. And now we may begin. Slowly, slowly, we bring our attention back to the present moment. Slowly, we relax our concentration. We take our 2 final deep breaths. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. It was pleasant, huh? Quietness, stillness, continuous connected consciousness. How things bliss out. Replicate what the Buddha was trying to do. Replicate his jhanic experience. And slowly you're gonna be like so zen, unmoved, unshakable by anything that happens. You start to see this true, actual, real nature. True, actual, real nature of life, humans, events, places, and things. Any questions before we conclude class? No. Keith is really blissed out right now. You see him? You feel it, right? Sit next to you, feel it, right? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, see, in a short amount of time, I was able to prepare you all for this is one of the very toughest moments. Not a lot of people can sit with the silence. It's uncomfortable. No Wi-Fi, no music, just sound of a fan from 1950s, right? Mm-hmm. Heck, in the Buddha's day, even if you wanted Pandora, it didn't exist. So as we conclude class today, review insight meditation, review the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That needs to be solidified before before February comes, because that is central and key to Theravadan practice. That has to be solid foundation for you all. As we will go into insight meditation next week, we'll start practicing the noting techniques within sensations in the body, particularly low back pain. And then when you've trained your attention to be on point, we will do lying down meditation. That'll be more relaxing. In the February month, it's going to be a lot of lying down, body scans. We'll bring our attention to the full body scans, connecting with the breath and sensations in each part of the body so that you're in tune with the body, and just in very relaxed state. That needs to be practiced often, because sometimes on a tiring day, you don't want to sit in this position. You just want to lie down. And the beach is the best place to do it with the sand. You literally, the sand sucks away all of your problems. It's literally like a magnetic. It's like a magnet that it sucks all of your everything, pain, misery, sorrow, away from your lower back, away from your whole entire body. And it just sinks it into the sand. And all your problems are gone by the time you wake up. By the time you open your eyes, you're like, oh my God, I'm out on the beach. Oh my God, paradise found. Mm-hmm. So if I teach you all that and refine that so that you don't fall asleep, but sometimes you will fall asleep, um, it's okay. It's good for relaxation. Those also are emergency relaxation techniques in life. When life gets too much at work or something, just take yourself to the beach. We live in Pinellas County. Everyone travels here for the beaches. We have it here and we don't use it. Or I do it often. Yeah, often. It's therapeutic for me. So therefore, I wanted to give guided meditation while we're all lying down. And that's when Julius, and you're like, oh God, I've been waiting for this moment. Oh goodness, why couldn't we do this in the very beginning? But it had to be slow, gradual, awareness, the tolerance of the position that you're in now. You have to be able to tolerate this so that you can withstand life, patience, pain, suffering. You have to suffer in order to deal with life.
Conditioning.
Yeah, conditioning. You have to know what it's like to suffer, both mind and body, and so that it solidifies you as a warrior, the Dharma warrior, so that when you step into life and things happen, you just pretend like, when I sat there for 3 hours with back pain, I can withstand this. And then we go in February, we go into a lot of relaxations, and it's meant for you to know how to unwind, really veer towards the middle way of relaxation, and just things are going to happen the way it's going to happen in life. And again, your focus should be on women's health and male health, the preservation and longevity of your life, the telomeres, the regeneration of your cells. That should be top priority, because I'm training you all to be the next inspiration of your generation. So you have to keep your body efficient, effective, so that you can spread the teachings, so I can achieve immortality. See how that works?
Mortality. 2 words.
And I go check up on 3 of my students who's working right now. So recently I've been checking up on all of them. Unannounced, announced and unannounced. But they're such good kids. Their parents are my age. They're like 18, 19. Their parents are like 35, 36. They're my age.
That's crazy.
Well, I'm glad I did not have kids. But these are good kids I'm supervising, so didn't have to hammer it down on them. Trust me, I would look rough, right? Every Sunday, I would look rough if I had to hammer people, right? If I had to do a lot of this over the week, you would know. You would know. You would walk in class like, okay, all right, we'll see you next week. But we postpone this week. Yatha Varivaha Pura Pari Purenti Sakarang Epomewa Ito Dinang Petanang Upakapati Ichitang Patitang Tumhang Kipamewa Samejatu Sape Purentu Sankapa Chando Panyaraso Yatha Manicho Teraso Yatha Sabi Diyo Viwanchan Tusa Purua Goa Vina Satuma Devawan Tuan Darayo Suki Diha Yugo Bawa Abiwan dan Nasile Sani Chang Vuta Bachani no Chataro Thamma Watandi Ayuwano Sokang Palang Bawatasa Pamangkalang Rakan Tusa Padewada Sababuta Wena Sadasoti Bawantu Te Bawatasa Pamangkalang Rakan Tusa Padewada Sabathamma Wena Sadasoti Bawantu Te Bawatasa Pamangkalang Rakan Tusa Padewada Sabasangha Wena Sadasoti Bhavantu Te. As we conclude class for today, rejoice in everything that you have accumulated in knowledge. Rejoice in the practice that you have been sustaining. Rejoice in the peace that you have found. And slowly, that increase happiness, rapture, piti, will grow more and more in strength, grow more and more in enjoyment every single day. And slowly you will realize what true inner peace actually really is. True inner freedom, true inner liberation, unmoved by external worldly events, unmoved by things and people around you. Everyone is owners of their own karma. You are the owner of your karma. What people do is their karma. How we respond is our karma. Let you not ever forget the teachings of karma. Let you not forget the mechanics and workings of karma. May you approach karma with curiosity and with an investigative mind to investigate karma closely, wisely, carefully, as it will continue to unfold in your life unceasingly. Karma never tires of doing what it needs to do to balance out the world, its working, its people, places, things, and events. Therefore, a wise understanding will lead you to great wisdom, great understanding of sila, great understanding of morality, great understanding of ethics. If you want peace in your life, you must understand karma. If you want peace in your life, you must keep the precept as much to the letter of the law as much as possible. May you rejoice now into your intermediate levels and advanced level teachings. May you rejoice as we almost near the conclusion of our program. May you rejoice, people who are going to be looking up to you in possession of the great teachings, in possessions of the key that unlocks the door to nirvana. May you rejoice all of the efforts that you have put in, the human effort that the Buddha would smile towards you, the human effort that the Arahants now smile upon you, and the efforts that the Devas and the celestial beings now look upon you in protecting you, the young students of modern day millennials, the modern day students of the Zoomers, the timeless teachings of the Buddhas and the celestial beings and Devas, Arahants, and Buddhas that went before now smiles upon this earth, realizing that you are the future to continue these teachings, to spread these teachings to suffering beings awaits to hear your voice. May you all be well, be happy, be free from mental suffering, be free from physical suffering. May you use these teachings to deal with those sufferings head on. May you realize the light of your own true nature, your full capacity as a human. May your heart remains open to be compassionate to others, to hold them responsible, but also be compassionate at the same time, by and through deep understanding. May you be healed in this lifetime and be a great source of healing for humanity that awaits. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.